We'll draw two pictures here. In my first picture,
Mr. Stone. Kelly was in the email.
I'm going to draw two lines that are obviously not parallel. And then, over here, I am going to draw two lines that sure do appear to be parallel. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can get both of them in there. Now, when you have two lines, and you make a third line here, this line that cuts them, that I draw that intersects both of them, this line is called a transversal. Okay? This line here is also called a what? Now, everybody look up here for a second. I'll let you write this down in just a second. Look up at the board. As this line comes down here, Austin, you need help, bub? Looking for a pencil or something? Here. Maybe I got one up here you can use right quick. You want to use this red pen to start you out so you can get started? All right. As this line comes down here, and what happens when it intersects this line? What does it create? What happens as a result? Eyes up here. No daydreaming. I see a lot of daydreaming. It comes in here, and what happens? It creates an angle right here. We'll call it angle 1. Then it creates a what? A second angle and a fourth angle. So as it intersects here, it creates a bundle of 4 angles. And we've talked about these, haven't we? These are vertical angles, the opposite ones, right? These are what? 100, add to 180s. If they're kind of beside each other here, they create a straight line, they add to 180, right? And then, they're supplementary. Then they come down here, and what's created? 4 more what? Angles. So I'll name this 5, 6, 7, and what? Okay. Now, everybody understand that? 8 angles are created. A bundle of 4 with this line and a bundle of 4 down here. Does the same thing happen over here?
Yes.
Now, in this case, I said that this line is parallel to what? In this case, it's not. Does it look like anything special happens? Let me ask you this. Basically, when this is done, we can basically decide there's kind of a pod of 4 angles created right here, right? Agreed? There's 4 angles created right there. And then there's what? 4 more angles created here. Compare this 4 with these 4. Do they look the same? They don't, do they? Now, however, look right here and look right here. Do they look like they're the same? This one down, this pod of 4, we'll call it a pod of 4 angles, looks to be exact same as this pod of 4, doesn't it? So, what's the difference between these two pictures? In this one, the lines are what? In this one, and in this one, the lines are what? not parallel. So the whole reason we have a section on this is because something special happens when two parallel lines are cut by a, and you know what happens? You have a what? A copy of each. Okay, there's two identical copies of these are called. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put names to these angles, but I think what you could say, what do you think is congruent to angle 1? Okay, angle 3. Now why do you know that? Because they're what? And they're, where two lines intersect, the opposite angles are what? They're vertical angles, aren't they? 1 and 3 are vertical, aren't they? Now, what else looks like to be a copy of angle 1? Isn't 5 look like it is? But because these are vertical angles, then it's the same as what? So it looks to me like 1, 3, 5, and 7 are what? The same, right? What about angle 2? What's congruent to angle 2? And actually, 6 and 8. That's this section in a nutshell. When two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, you get two kind of pods of angles created that are copies of each other. Now, what we're going to do, though, is we're going to plant some theorems to this. And we're going to name the relationships between the angles we have here. First one we'll have corresponding angles. Next one we're going to have alternate interior angles. Then after that, we're going to, we have some what kind of angles here too? We have some vertical angles too, don't we? And we also have alternate exterior angles. And guys, the names themselves kind of describe. And then the last one, which I'm going to put a little squiggly line here because they're kind of, it's different, are consecutive interior angles. And then underneath it, I'm going to go ahead and write a linear pair. Of all those different types of angles we've talked about here, that I wrote up here, which ones have we talked about before? We've talked about vertical angles before, have we not? And we've talked about what? Linear pair. Linear pairs add to what? 180 degrees, don't they? What about vertical angles? They are what? Congruent. I don't really need to talk about what they are because you should know that already, correct? Linear pairs when you have, it looks like that, right? Two angles that look like that. Together they create a what? Straight line. So you know that the measure of the two angles added together are what? 180 degrees. Everybody got that? All right. Now, stop writing. Everybody look up here. First of all, I see interior and I see exterior. Interior, I better be able to look at this and tell which ones are what? Interior and which ones are what? What would you guess are the interior angles? Huh? Inside. And most of you probably would say 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Why would you say that? Because this looks like the front, this part's open, this part's open. If you put walls here, this is your front yard and this is your backyard, right? And this is inside the house. Hey, the nice thing about this, you're exactly right. The interior angles are 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what I want you to do, and give me an example of alternate interior angles. What do you think we could alternate? What does alternate mean? Like I told you to count to 10 alternating each number, what would you do? You'd go 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, right? You're alternating numbers. You're not saying you're going to the next one. So what do you think alternate interior angles would be? 4 and 6? What do you guys think? I like that. Angle 4 and angle 6. What are they alternating around? The transversal, absolutely correct. How about another example? Huh? Do you think there's another example of two alternate interior angles there? Angle 3 and angle what? What do you think we can say about these? What are they? Congruent. Aren't they congruent?
Yep.
Each set? So isn't the name kind of tell you what it is, if you look at it? Alternate exterior angles. Okay, what are our exterior angles?
Yes.
1, 2, 8, and 7. What are the alternate exterior angles? 1, and then the one on the alternate side of the transversal, which would be what? Give me another two. Angle 1 and angle 7, and then angle what? So you see how words that you already pretty much understand what they mean kind of almost tell you what they are? Now, what do you think about the alternate exterior angles? 1 is what? And 7 are what? What do we have them already marked as? They are what? Congruent. Okay. What about, here, look, I've got consecutive interior angles. What do you think consecutive interior? Okay, I already did what alternate was. What do you think consecutive interior angles would be? My interior angles are 3, 4, 5, and 6. I had alternate, I was 4 and 6, 3 and 5. What do you think would be consecutive? The ones right what? On top of each other, right? So it would be angle 3 and angle what? And then what? Angle 4 and angle what? 5. You see the difference, how these are consecutive because they're right on top of each other? Now, here's the deal. However, do I have those marked as congruent? I don't, do I? How do you think they relate to each other? Look down here to your linear pairs. Give me some examples of some linear pairs. Angle 5 and angle 6 are linear pairs, aren't they? Would you agree? So they add to what? Well, if 5 and 6 add to 180 and 6 the same thing as 4, what do you think 5 and 4 have to do? Add to 180, right? Do you see where, I'll say this again, look up here. If 5 and 6 add to 180 degrees, and 6 and 4 are the exact same thing, wouldn't 5 and 4 have to add to 180? So what do you think consecutive interior angles do? Because isn't it the same thing? Look, 3 and 4 add to what? 180, don't they? So what would 3 and 6 have to do? Because 4 and 6 are the same. So consecutive interior angles add to 180. So all of them are congruent except for what? Consecutive interior angles and what? Linear pairs, right? The only one left here is what? Corresponding. Everybody look up here at this picture. What is the difference between corresponding and all of these other new ones? Alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior. What's the big difference? These are either alternate or what? Consecutive, and they're either talking about interior or what? Does this have interior or exterior in it? So that's not how we're going to name these, are we? And the reason they don't is for this reason. What is the corresponding angle to angle 1? Remember when I said you come through here and you create 4 angles, right? Then the transversal gets down to this line and creates what? 4 more. Which one is the copy of angle 1 down here? So wouldn't you say that angle 1 corresponds to angle what? That's its copy, isn't it? So an example of corresponding angles would be angle 1 and what? Angle 5. What about angle 2? What's its corresponding angle? Huh?
6.
Angle 6. Angle 2 is top right. What's angle 6? Top right. How about what corresponds to angle 4? Angle 8. What corresponds to angle 3? Angle 7. Now, as we've drawn the picture, what do we say angle 1 is what to 5? Did they add to 180 or are they congruent? That's a big part of this chapter broken down right there. When these are parallel, these are the 4 situations where they're what? Right. And these are the 2 situations where they are what? Supplementary. When these 2 are parallel, all of that's going to happen. But it wasn't that complicated. It almost was less complicated when we just looked at what the picture looked like, didn't it? Wasn't it? Would you guys agree with that? When we started adding all these names to it, it started getting a little more complicated. But if you'll look and take a second to read and think about what the word corresponding means. If 2 things correspond, you kind of think of them as about kind of the same thing, kind of, maybe, or, you know, if this corresponds to this, it means this is the same thing over here that this one is over here, right? It's kind of what, I mean, if you were thinking about the word correspond. So that kind of tells you it's the same one, just at a different place. Well, what's the same thing as 1 at a different place? 5. Which one's the same thing as 2 but a different place? 6. Alternate interior. You all, without my help, probably looked at that and guessed right which ones were the interior angles, right? The ones that alternate are the ones on opposite sides of the what? The ones that are on the same side, consecutive, are the ones that add to 180. The ones that alternate are what? Congruent. Questions? Okay, I'm sure you got to write that. There's still some people who need to write that down, right? I know it's small trying to get everything in there, but you can see it, can't you? Now that we've talked about all that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at that worksheet, okay? I am going to do one example before we do the worksheet. Who needs a worksheet? You do? Where'd the extras come in at? Okay. Where's Jalen needs one? I need one more. Is that it? Okay. Jason. Jay Sean. I said Jalen. I didn't mean to say that. Jay Sean. Has everybody got that down? Let's stay focused now. Can I go on? We okay? Okay. All right. The only thing I want to do here is I just want to put some numbers to some of this stuff. Again, I'm going to draw 2 lines that are parallel. I'm going to cut them with the transversal. It's frozen? Okay. And you don't have to write this down, just watch. I'm saying this is parallel to this. And let's say I say this is 150 degrees. Can you guys find every other angle there? You actually can. That may seem weird, but the reason you can is because I told you this was what? Parallel to this. So you knew that this quad of 4 is a copy of this, or this quad of 4 is a copy of that one, right? They're copies of each other. So if that's 150, what's that one? Now, you already know about vertical angles, don't you? So if that's 150, what's that one? Okay. This is 150, what's this one? But what about the other measure? How can you find that other measure? From 180. These have to add to 180, don't they? This is what then? What's it make this one? By giving you one angle, you were able to find 7 more, weren't you? See how easy that is? This is a very easy concept when there's only 2 lines drawn and 1 transversal. We'll get into an example here in a second. What this starts getting more complicated is when they start doing things like this. Then you got to figure out, okay, which one is the alternate interior to that one? You know what I mean? When they start mixing, basically putting 2 problems on top of each other. And the key on things like this is only work with one transversal at a time. Completely ignore the other one. That's the biggest thing. Okay? And we'll get into that. And another thing you'll notice sometimes, especially on these, and I don't know how bad this book does it, but I know the other book I work out of did a real bad job of it. And I kind of did here, not nearly as bad as they did. Does that look like a 30-degree angle? No. But by the rules of these two being parallel and me saying that's 150, guess what? In this case, it has to be. They won't always draw it necessarily to scale as far as the measure of the angle. Okay? Most of the time they'll get it within, but really, I'm saying if I was to measure this, I bet you this is more like 120 and this one's more like what? 60, okay? But they don't have to draw it to scale. All right, now let's get that worksheet out. You know, in this one here, they just want to identify it as alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior, or vertical. Okay, 9 and 11. Now here's the deal. How many different situations do I have? I have a lot. That could be my transversal. And if that's my transversal, then these are my 8 angles created, correct? But if you'll remember with the original picture, and by the way, these are still alternate interior angles. The only difference is because these aren't parallel, these aren't what? Congruent, are they? You know what I mean? So with that in mind, if they ask you to compare 12 and 15, guess what? Turn it like this, 12 and 15. They're alternate interior angles, aren't they? You see what I mean? They're just not congruent. So you just got to pick one transversal and 2 lines at a time and let the other stuff go. So here we're 9 and 11. So we're talking about 9 and 11. So I can just completely forget about this other line right here, can I? And this is probably the most important thing to be able to do in doing these type of problems, is being able to kind of in your mind, you might find that it's worth your time to draw a bunch of different pictures or to simply draw a picture in pen, label it, and then use a pencil to draw it, and then maybe get a quick eraser and draw lightly, you know, and mark each one at a time. Do I have one of my pencils over there? Do you see a pencil at all? Dang it, I did have one. I usually like to use pens because they show up better. I'll see if I can find. I think I got one. I just need to sharpen it. Might take forever today. Okay, so I'm talking about this one and this one. How do these two relate to each other? Huh? They're vertical angles. I'm not comparing this one with this up here, so I would say vertical angles. How about angle 3 and angle 9? Okay, so I've got 3 and 9. So which line and this over here on the right, I don't even need to worry about, do I? This is my transversal, and these are my 2 lines cut by that transversal. So how does 3 relate to 9? First of all, one of the easiest things to go about this is to first decide whether they're both on the inside or they're both on the outside. Are they both on the inside? Huh? So they're what type of angles? Interior angles. You see how you can kind of help yourself out? Let's say you haven't quite learned this, but they're interior angles, so it's either what? Alternate what? Or consecutive what? Which one is it? Are they on the consecutive or are they alternate? They're right above each other. They're on the same sides, one after the other one. So these are what? Consecutive. And I do want you to write the word out, because you need to, the word is just important. There'll be other things that I'll let you abbreviate. And now you can abbreviate interior, but I want you to write out the word consecutive because it tells you so much about it, the word consecutive. Erase that. 3 and 12. So 3 and 12. Which line do I need to worry about? The one on the far right here, right? Again, still, just erase it from your mind. Don't let it confuse you, because it means nothing to 3 and 12, does it? What are these? Okay. 8 and 6. Ah. So what do I not need to worry about? These over here to the what? Okay, so how do these relate to each other? They're vertical. You guys kind of getting the hang of this a little bit? 8 and 15. 8, 15. Yeah, they're both on the exterior, so the only one of those is what? Four and 5. Oh, see, now's when they probably would have confused you. You know what I mean? Because these two aren't parallel, so you're like, well, you know, because we're used to seeing the parallel ones, but these are still classified a certain amount of angles just because these aren't parallel. What are they, though? Well, if I'm talking about these two, which one's my transversal? Wouldn't this be my transversal? Isn't this line what connects these two? So that means that I don't worry about that at all, do I? Excuse me, I'm sorry. And if it helps you, because I've taught everything with them on top of each other, what can I do with my paper? Whoop. Now what does it look like? Absolutely. Think about it. You know, here, it confuses you a little, doesn't it? But isn't it amazing how when the perspective changes, it kind of jumps out at you a little more? You have the ability to turn this 90 degrees yourself as well. Don't be afraid to do that. I should be looking up, seeing you do your homework, and seeing somebody either turn your head sideways, excuse me, or turn it. I got a frog in my throat. So these are alternate, what? Interior what? Angles. They're not congruent because these two aren't parallel, but they're still alternate interior angles. 1, 7. I'm good, I don't have to erase my squiggly line. Does this mean anything over here? No. 1 and what? 7. How do these relate to each other? If you can't see it from there, turn it around. Are they on the outside or the inside? And think about it, how do I know they're on the outside? Well, the angle opens up to space, doesn't it? For these, 4 opened up to this, didn't it? There was another line on top of it. These are alternate what? Right. You guys can do that, can't you? Now, what about if we start putting numbers to this stuff? It's kind of the same thing. Here's what I want you to do with me. You know what we're going to do? We are going to figure out every single angle on here we can. I'm not even going to worry about the problem. I'm going to figure out every angle on here I can by what's given to me. First things first. If this is 60, can you tell me another angle that's 60? If this is 60, can you tell me the measure of this one? This is 120. What's this one? In fact, tell you what I'm going to do. I think this is better explained on the board. This will be the last thing we do before we're done. Have to zoom this out. Okay. Once you go to decide if this one's 60, what's this one? Everyone agrees there, right? Then we said if this one's 60, what's 6? 120 degrees. You guys see that? You understand by the arrow I'm saying? Okay? That's 60, right? What is 9 then? Everybody okay with that? Okay. Now let's start connecting some D's with these up here. Now, here's like I said, what you're going to get into problems here. Right now, what's our transversal? This one right here? So you know what you need to do in your mind? Completely erase this one. Now, is this just like the other problem we did? So which one's the copy of 5 in the inside here? If this is 60, what's this one?
Oh, yeah, okay.
If this one's 60, what's this one? Because they're what? They're vertical angles, aren't they? That's what I'm saying. You gotta completely forget all of this. Get it out of your mind. It's not there.
So how do you know 1 is 60?
Because these are parallel. And these are alternate interior angles, aren't they? So if 6 is 120, what do you think I can say here? It's not, it's the combination of 2 and 3, isn't it? What? Wouldn't that be 120 degrees? Would you guys agree with that? But it's the combination of 2 and 3. It's not 2 or 3, is it? You guys see the difference there? And then what's the measure of that angle then right there? 120, right? Does everybody see that? That was that. And you see how they match up? Top left 120, top left what? Top right 60, bottom right what? Now, what you gotta do now, unfortunately, is we gotta deal with this other stuff now. So we've dealt with that transversal and those 2 parallel lines. So what we have to do is just see how we've kind of done that and we've marked what each one is using these right here. So now I have the luxury, now I'm gonna change my transversal. Which one am I gonna erase in my mind now? I did this transversal, right? So I want to do this one now. So I'm going to erase what? This one right here. So now I'm going to deal with what? That one. So let's go over here. Here to here is what? So what's that mean that one is? It's not too bad, is it? Are there any others that are 80 degrees? What's the copy of this one, if that's our transversal right there, up here? That one right here? So this one's what? 80 degrees, right? What's that make this one? You know, I've got it in different colors, so it helps you a little there, doesn't it? Okay. All right. Well, if this one's 80, what's 7? What's that make this one? Well, if this one's 100, what's this one right here? Combination of 1 and 2. It's 100, isn't it? Alternate interior angles. What's that make this one? Now I just erase that. And I've almost found everything, haven't I? Well, what was the key of what I just did? What did I not do? I looked at what? One transversal at a time, didn't I? I did not try to combine them into one, because it can get very confusing. There is no doubt about that. Now, what's the only angle we haven't found yet? Okay, let's see, we know, if they ask us what number 8 is, do we know what it is? 60. They ask us what 3 is, do we know what 3 is? It's 80. They ask us what 7 is, we're good, 4 we're good, 10 we're good, all of these we're good. What's the only one we don't know yet? 2. How can we find 2 though? Look at how I've got this marked. Don't the lines and the circular kind of lines help it out? Here to here is 60. Here to here is 100. How much is left right there? 40. Would you agree? Isn't that how it had to be? So what's this angle right here? So now do we have every single thing here? If you guys have a cell phone, take it out, take a picture of that. If not, transfer it onto your paper. And you can answer every question there, then can't you? This is what can make this hard. Okay, you have to be disciplined enough to have listened to class and realize that you got to take one of the transversals away. I don't know if you walk up and get a picture of it.
I got it.
Okay? But at least with the picture you have colors, right? I doubt some of you gals might have 4 different colors, but you can write these notes in if you want to. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, Anthony, you don't have 5 different colors for us, do you? Okay? Questions? Look at that again and see if you have any questions. Because this is the basis of what this chapter and a lot of your questions will be on. It's not that bad. And this is what happens when they are what?